Hello, I'm Wayne Poling, Sunday School Specialist at Lifeway Christian Resources, and it's been my joy to be with you for this series of videos on the work of the Sunday School Director. Joining me today, I have Bob Mayfield, and Bob is the Director of Sunday School work here in Oklahoma. You know, Bob, I don't know about you, but I love a good juicy apple.
Me too, yep.
And you know, Bob, when you look at this apple, do you see just an apple that's delicious and good to enjoy, or do you see the potential for a tree that can produce bushels of apples?
Actually, it's making my stomach growl. So now I guess there's potential in many apples, I guess, actually, if you look at it correctly.
You know, and today we're going to talk about how within your group is the potential to start other groups that can reach multiple people for the kingdom. And exciting things are happening here in Oklahoma. Bob, share with us a little bit about what's happening here in Oklahoma.
We started a new state initiative called Reconnect Sunday School. And in this part of this initiative is we're trying to start as many new groups as possible because we're beginning to recognize the value of new groups when it comes to growing the church and making disciples. And in fact, in 2014, we kind of set a kind of an unofficial goal here in our state convention to start at least one new group in every single church in our state, which is over 1,800 churches. And so we recognize the value of new groups, and so we're trying to encourage churches to do this. And coming up on September 7th of 2014, we have a Sunday called Start Sunday. And we're going to try to start as many new groups in one day as possible on that day.
You know, I'm excited about new groups, and because I believe that a new group is the best way to reach people with the gospel. It leads us to get outside of our walls and discover new people. Bob, I've heard you say many times that on average, a new group will reach 10 new people. Mm-hmm. You know, that's pretty exciting when you think about that if a Sunday school wants to grow by 30, one of the key actions they can take is to start 3 new groups.
Exactly. You know, I mean, I've got a Texas education, Wayne, and I could even figure out that 30 people would be 3 new groups. And one of the things I think that helps us do is it helps us realize that you can't put everybody into just one group. If that was an effective way of doing Sunday school, then we just have one great big huge auditorium class and the pastor could teach it. But instead we have multiple classes because we need multiple avenues for people to connect.
You know, Bob, I've seen Sunday schools implode because they've tried to put more and more people on the same structure, the same organization, and those Sunday schools that were focused on reaching out began to be focused on just trying to minister to those they've already reached. And then before you know it, they're focused on the active members, and those that are inactive begin to drift away. And it begins to unfold like a building that implodes because it can't support the organization. And so Sunday schools that start new groups are prepared to reach new people. I want to talk about some steps that we can take, and I want to visit with you about some of those. One of those first steps is to pray. I know we've said that consistently throughout these videos that praying for that item is important, but I can think of no greater step than to begin by praying that God lay on your heart and on the heart of your members the need to start new groups. As you pray and as you ask God to reveal to you the potential of new groups. You know, and then one of the next steps you can take is to enlarge your prayer circle. Bob, how would they involve their classes in praying for new groups? What are some suggestions you would give to Sunday school director on how to involve their teachers in praying for new groups?
Well, I think one of the steps you'd want to take there, Wayne, is you would want, as a Sunday school director, to engage your teachers, your Sunday school teachers, with the idea of starting new groups. I know many times if the Sunday school director steps into a class and says, hey, we need to start a new group here, when the Sunday school director leaves, the people in the group say, who's that guy think he is telling us what to do? But if the teacher's been involved, the teacher's been engaged in the process, the teacher actually becomes the catalyst for helping that group carry on. And by sharing this prayer request with a number of teachers, it actually involves the church and the Sunday school class or Sunday school group personally and spiritually in the process. And that's what we need to remember is really starting new groups. It can sometimes have a mechanical look to it, but what we're really doing is this is a spiritual engagement. And so we need to make sure we're engaging the Spirit and we're following the leading of the Spirit as we do this.
Very good, Bob. Thank you. And you know, one of the things as Sunday school director that you can do is to concentrate on learning the value of new groups. You know, for many of us, we need ourselves to get a new understanding of what a new group can do, what potential it brings to the church. So I encourage you to attend conferences, to watch videos, to read about starting new groups. Bob, tell us a little bit about here in Oklahoma, some of the emphasis you're going to be giving this coming year through the Reconnect about new groups.
Right. The emphasis we're going to be beginning is, as I mentioned earlier, is September 7th is Start Sunday. And so we're asking our churches to start as many new groups on that Sunday as possible. But to lead up to that, we have Ready, Set, and Start. And so during the late winter and early spring is the ready time, and that's when we're going to be sharing information. But during the set time, that's when we're going to be asking churches to enlist people, enlist leaders to become Sunday school teachers, enlist people to leave a Sunday school class and maybe be a seed couple or a seed person in a new group. And so that's some of the things that we're doing to try and encourage that.
In step 3, you'll want to create a climate for new groups. You know, one of the most important things you'll do in regard to new groups is to create a climate in your church where you celebrate new groups, where you recognize the contribution of new groups, the lives being changed, people that are being reached, the new people that you have in your church as a result of new groups. You'll want to set that climate by first sitting down with your pastor and staff and involving them and talking about how to develop that climate.
Absolutely.
What would you do, Bob, in that conversation with your pastor?
Well, I think one of the best things to do would be to involve the pastor in where the new groups are going to start. Many times a pastor's got a very good perspective of where church members are, maybe some church members that need to be reconnected. Maybe there are some people who are outside the church that if we started a new group for example, single adults, or maybe we had a target group over here we're trying to reach, the pastor would know who those people are and would actually be able to help connect the new group with the people they're trying to reach. Another thing it does is it kind of brings the pastor into play, and if the Sunday school director, Wayne, will connect with the pastor and communicate with the pastor where they're starting the new groups, then that's also, as those new groups get started, let the pastor know how they're going, because a pastor can help celebrate from the platform the establishment of new groups and how well they're doing. People like to be rewarded, and they like to hear the pastor say, hey man, this is what's happening well in our church. And they like to hear that, but if we don't communicate with the pastor how that's going, the pastor doesn't have any information, doesn't have any ammo to share, so to speak, and kind of keep the new groups thing moving.
You know, Bob, that brings us to our 4th point, which is to celebrate new groups when they begin.
That's right.
You know, tell the story about new groups. We've already talked about share the value, but I mean as you're starting the new groups, I encourage you to formally commission those new groups. What could be better than to pray over those leaders as they launch those new groups and to celebrate the beginning of those new groups? It may be that you come in with a set of scrubs on and you're celebrating and saying, hey, we just had a new birth. And you're talking about the new group that has started. But celebrate the beginning of those new groups. You know, Bob, one of the things I saw happen at Ridgecrest this past summer with a group of ministers of education across the nation was that they set some goals for starting new groups. And it was exciting to hear them talk about. I think there were like 230 something.
There were a lot.
New groups. They set a goal to start, which could mean over 2,000 new people involved in Bible study. You know, we want a Sunday school director, one of the chief things they can do is to set goals for the number of new groups they're going to start. Talk to us a little bit about setting goals for new groups.
Well, I think one of the best things a Sunday school director can do is actually set some targets, set some goals, and then also associate with those goals some target dates of when you want to see those goals met or when you want to get those new groups started. We live in a culture of procrastination, and new groups become something we intend to do. It becomes a good intention, but we never quite get around to it. And so what we want to see is, first of all, help establish some goals, but then also say we'd like to see a new group start maybe in January, maybe another 2 more groups maybe start right after Easter. If you're a small group, a small church, you might need to kind of figure out maybe we need to start 1 group a year. Our friend Bruce Raley has got a formula, and he basically says that for every 100 people you have in worship attendance, start a new group every year.
That's great.
Now, if you're a small church, you know, many of our churches run less than 100, run 50 or so, you might consider starting a new group every other year. And so still, put some targets out there, have some goals, and then the other thing is when we put it on the calendar, it helps kind of develop some accountability, and it helps us actually accomplish the things we're trying to do.
You know, and that, as you said that, you know, I thought about if you are running 50 and you establish a new group every other year, you're not going to be running 50
No,
very
you're
long.
not.
Because each one of those is going to bring 10 new people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's a part of setting goals is when you're setting goals, you need to equate those goals to lives. In other words, if you're setting a goal to start 4 new groups, equate that to 40 new people being involved in Bible study, touching 40 new people with the gospel, touching the lives of 40 new people that you're hoping to see their lives transformed by the study of God's Word. So setting goals is an important part of starting new groups. You know, you won't be able to start any new groups unless you identify the possibilities for new groups. And Bob, you mentioned this a moment ago, a little bit about talking with your pastor about those possibilities. But you need to begin to identify where can we start new groups? What are possibilities? Who are those unreached groups of people that we need to start something for and begin to reach out to them, begin to work to start groups for those people? Ask God to give you eyes to see people that need to be reached. You know, a couple of places you may look for where you have places that you're not presently reaching people in your Sunday school that you have the potential for in your area. But you know, the opposite of that can be true also. You may have some places where you are growing that if you're going to continue to grow, you need to start some new groups in that area as well. So you need to begin to identify places to start new groups. Then, you know, Bob, there are some places of ministry that often go overlooked because there's no group for those folks. And so I encourage you to have those kinds of eyes. Let's talk a little bit about step number 7, enlisting and training the leadership for a new group. When you think about new groups, Bob, if you're going to start a new adult class, a new adult group, what do you see as the basic leadership team you should have in that new group?
Well, I think, you know, we probably would start with a teacher.
Yeah,
if you don't have a teacher, don't have a Bible study leader, probably the group's not going to do very much. And so obviously we want to start with the leader, but we also need some people who can be support people in there as well. And so somebody maybe who could be like a ministry leader and could make contact, call the people in the group. Maybe somebody who could be an outreach leader and could be inviting new people, could be making contacts on behalf of the teacher, so the teacher's not having to do all the work. I think one of the things that happens is if the teacher's the one doing all the work, they're the one that's invested and committed. If you can get somebody else besides a teacher, other people involved, then they're also invested in it and they want to see the group succeed. And so I think kind of enlisting a team of 3 or 4 people to help get the group started is really beneficial. And the other thing that does for us also is if a new person does come to the group, if the only person in it is a teacher, that person is probably going to wonder, what kind of a teacher is this guy? He doesn't even have any students.
That's right.
And so if you have a group, a core group, enough people there to kind of create critical mass, it would help a lot when a new person comes in to feel like they're part of something that's taking place.
You know, and as you think about this, one of the key things that you'll want to do as Sunday school director is to help that leader that's going to begin that new group enlist and develop that team of folks that are going to be the team for that new group. Think about new groups as a team of people beginning the group. You know, you also want to have people that are praying for that group and giving support to that group. But I am excited about what Bob just said, because you both have people that are helping build the ministry of that group, but also you have the assurance that you're beginning with a foundational group to be able to do Bible study with, so when that first person comes. Number 8 is to promote the starting date, invite people, and enroll potential members. You know, that sounds pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, do we have to wait till the first Sunday of a new group to enroll people in a new group?
No. You can enroll people in a new group at any time, just as long as they know when the group is actually going to start. And so, you might do a build-up, kind of a runway. So we want to start a new group on such and such a Sunday, for example, like September 7th, 2014, and then back up 4, 5, 6 weeks and begin enlisting and enrolling and asking people if they would like to come and join the group, and then set a launch date for that group start.
I hope you've caught that image. You know, your church has said, we're going to start a group for this group of people. And you're praying that God will bring those people to that group that'll help you find and discover those folks. And you're praying to reach that group of people. Maybe it's a group of single adults that you're wanting to start a single adult group for. and you're praying and looking for. And as a church, you're looking for those folks. You're inviting them. You're telling them when that group's going to start, and you are enrolling them in Bible study. Wouldn't it be exciting, Bob, to start a Bible study group, and you know that before you start it, you have already enrolled 10 people?
That'd be pretty awesome. That'd be pretty awesome.
I can see that happening across Oklahoma and across our convention. Then the next step is pretty obvious. You've promoted the starting date. You've invited people. You've enrolled people. The next step is that starting date. You're launching the new group, and you want to conduct it well, and then also celebrate its beginning.
Exactly.
So as you start that new group, you want to have a great celebration of it that first Sunday. Recognize the group, help the church to celebrate what has just taken place. And then the 10th item is continue to work with that new group. Continue to help them remain strong. You know, there's a danger, and I've seen this happen over and over again, where we start something and we assume it started, and then we walk off to the next thing. And before we know it, it's run out of gas. We've not given it the support it needs to continue to be strong and healthy. So I encourage you to continue to help that new group to find strength, to do their work well, and help them build a great foundation. Bob, anything else you want to say about new groups?
No, Wayne, this has been fantastic. I appreciate your help here. And you know, one of the things I hope we see happen is we see one new group get started, that new group will also recognize the value of being an apple, and then the new group actually begins a new group. And we begin to see, instead of just an apple, we see a tree, and then ultimately we see an orchard as a result of just one class in the church, one group in the church, taking the initiative to get something started.
You know, one apple, 10 new apples.
There we go.
That's
Amen.
pretty exciting. Thank you, Bob.
Very good. Thank you, Wayne.